Today on the Inside Scoop, we're going live. It is Portal Intel Day. Wow, a lot happening. There's over 3,000 players in the portal. This guy knows them all. Me, I'm only here to talk the top names. We're going to talk about some major developments that went down overnight. We're going to hit on a bunch of teams. So Pete Nakos, he's going to ride shotgun with me for the entire first segment. Then we're going to bring in an army of team site writers. We're going to go to UF, Texas, Texas A&M, USC, Miami, and more. So you guys, we have a loaded show. But before we get started, Pete, what do we got to tell them to do? Hit subscribe. There you go. Nakos told you to do it. I told you to do it. Hit subscribe. All right, let's start the show. So we're talking transfer portal, and last night there was a major development with quarterback Deman Williams, Washington quarterback. Now reports are he intends to go into portal. Not in there yet, but it gets a little murky because he did re-sign with Washington like 5 days ago. So, Pete, what is the latest on Deman Williams? What does all this mean?
Yeah, so here's what you got to know, Josh. So last night around 8:39 Central Time, Deman Williams puts out the graphic, announces he intends to enter the transfer portal. Widely unexpected by the University of Washington staff, Jed Fish. As you said, 5 days ago, he signs a contract to make him one of the highest paid returning quarterbacks in the sport going into 2026. And all of a sudden now we're in a bit of a portal war here where Deman Williams intends to enter the portal. Washington feels like he's under contract and he has no reason to leave. And it's clear from the jump that obviously there's been a couple schools tampering maybe to get Deman in the portal. How does it shake out? We don't know. The big thing to know, though, today is he is not in the portal. Washington has no intentions of putting him in the portal anytime soon because they have a contract that's been signed. Deman can unenroll from Washington and enroll at a new school. But the next big question from there is if he's under contract at another institution, will he make any money at the next place? So things like that need to play out. Obviously, I reported last night that he intends to go in the portal with a do not contact tag, which in this day and age leads you to believe that he has a pretty good idea about where he's going to go. But we don't know what timeline, if any, Washington has to actually put him in the portal.
So if I'm just here doing the science, I have no inside intel, just connecting dots. Deman Williams in LSU, would that be the connection right there if he were to hit the portal?
Yeah, so Sam Leavitt and Lane Kiffin were at an LSU basketball game last night.
Right.
They left around halftime. I talked to Shea Dixon about that. Sam Leavitt is now expected in Knoxville today for a visit with Tennessee. He's supposed to arrive later in the day. LSU needs a quarterback. Sources across the country indicate to On3 that Deman Williams and LSU could be a marriage. We'll see how it comes together. Other schools to watch. I keep an eye on Miami, right? Obviously, Carson Beck's going to go to the NFL whenever this college football playoff run ends. They could be in the market. They've been rumored to be in the market for Leavitt. Deman Williams in Miami can make sense as well.
All right. Well, so Sam Leavitt then. Sam Leavitt, is he being told to hold off by LSU? I mean, if Sam Leavitt wanted to go to LSU today, would they take it, or are they waiting on Deman Williams?
Yeah, so Sam Leavitt's been to Kentucky and LSU now. He's going to go to Tennessee. I would tell you this. I think Sam Leavitt is still evaluating his options. He obviously has not committed to LSU. That didn't happen on the visit. There have been some conversations when he gets to campus about his medical evaluations. He missed the back half of the season. It's unclear if he'd be able to return for spring ball and how that could look. So that's kind of where things are at with Sam Leavitt. I'll tell you this, too. I think Tennessee has a legitimate chance to land Sam Leavitt.
What about Miami? How does Miami play into this? You mentioned them potentially with Deman Williams. What about Sam Leavitt?
Yeah. Steve Wiltfong and I felt good about LSU around midday yesterday on Sam Leavitt. And then, things continued to add up where it seemed like maybe that wasn't going to come together. We always felt like Miami was like the dark horse in this, one to watch. He's also an Oregon native.
Right.
So that's something you got to keep an eye on too. I'll just say how it is. It's extremely unclear where Sam Leavitt's going to land right now. From speaking with some sources this morning, it sounds like the Tennessee visit may have always kind of been in the mix. Definitely wasn't at the forefront of his recruitment, though. I think we got to see how things play out. I also have to say, too, Deman Williams going in, I think he rockets right to the top of LSU's big board at the quarterback position.
Yeah, because 2 days ago, we were talking about how Brendan Sorsby and Sam Levitt were kind of dictating the dominoes, meaning DJ Lagway and Dylan Raiola were in part waiting to see what Sorsby and Levitt would do. But now, is that Deman Williams kind of jumped the line there?
Yeah, you could look at it like that
if he enters.
Yeah, the biggest thing here that we need to keep an eye on too is how Washington decides to handle it. I know that there's going to be some meetings today with Demond and some people close to the Washington staff. Another kind of curveball in here is that Jed Fish and Deman Williams share the same agent at Wasserman. I'll just say it doesn't sound like that agent played a large role, if any role, in Demond's decision to go in the portal. So there's kind of that wrinkle to it as well. There's a lot of things that Washington is trying to sort through Deman Williams, and it's unclear how that impacts the timeline about where he might, take a visit, land a commitment, and things like that. So that's pretty murky.
Yeah, it's interesting how these guys, even though they're not necessarily looking at the same schools, they don't all overlap. They are kind of connected to each other. So we're just going to have to watch the dominoes fall. We have a Texas super chat. I don't know. We haven't really done super chats on this show yet. I'm gonna read it, but first let's talk a little bit more quarterback talk. DJ Lagway, Dylan Raiola. I just mentioned them in terms of being big part of these QB dominoes. So where do things stand with Lagway and Raiola right now?
Yeah, so DJ Lagway is expected at Baylor today. He's coming off visits to Florida State and Virginia. Ole Miss and Stanford are also expressing interest. We'll see how things develop there. I'd expect more visits after today. The Lagway family is kind of taking it step by step. It's also a lot of travel in a short period of time.
Right.
Dylan Raiola, someone who's really evaluating the market from all the sourcing that we've done. He has not taken a visit to a campus. There's been some reports out there that Oregon could be a school to watch. It's extremely unclear at this point how Oregon would feel about adding Dylan Raiola to their quarterback room. Beyond that too, I think it goes without saying, but if the Deman Williams Washington divorce happens, it opens up another possible destination for Dylan Raiola. By far from saying that that's where he's going to end up, but it's just another opening that needs looked at.
All right, let me take a sip of water here, and I will read the super chat. Nakos, give me some news about Texas. Loses 4 running backs, loses a good amount of O-line depth. Livingston, Moore, both gone. What is Sark thinking? But I mean, they're also in it for some talented players as well.
Yeah, so Texas is trending to land Arizona State running back Raleek Brown. So you have that. Past that, they're in the mix for Andrew Sprague, the Michigan offensive tackle, who's weighing a return to Michigan or going to Texas. You also have Jaden Woods, the talented Florida edge rusher, who John Summerall and his staff are doing everything to get back to Gainesville, but Texas feel like it's competing for as well. And then obviously the biggest, player in the portal, Cam Coleman. Speaking with sources in Austin, the Longhorns definitely have some confidence going into this week.
All right, let's move back to regularly scheduled programming. Wide receiver Cam Coleman, he hit the portal, leaving Auburn, one of the superstar names in the portal right now. Where is Cam Coleman today? He's been on so many visits. Where is he today?
Yeah, I have quite a few texts out. Checking my text messages. I have not been able to confirm it just yet, but he is expected at Texas Tech today.
Okay.
And Alabama is expecting him later in the week. USC was a contender.
Right.
He was actually supposed to get to LA tomorrow, but they landed Terrell Anderson, the NC State wideout, and just decided that they're going to, take their name out. They went all in on their guy. Yeah,
they got some guys there. All right. So, any idea when he's going to decide? Cam Coleman, when does he come off the board?
I mean, it sounds like in the next 7 days. I know that's a huge time frame, but it's also, it's a massive decision he has to make.
He also seems like he is not slowing. Some of these guys, they'll schedule 4 visits, but they'll take 1. It seems like Cam Coleman's going to see this through. So we'll continue to talk about him. Now, lastly, before we let you go, Pete, I want intel on 2 top pass rushers in the portal. Chaz Coleman, Damon Wilson II.
Yeah, so Chaz Coleman made it to Ohio State for his visit with the Buckeyes yesterday. He's coming off trips to LSU and Tennessee. There was a lot of confidence actually with LSU going into Monday, but then he shows up to Knoxville, Tennessee, and then he makes it to Ohio State. So, we're going to have to kind of see how that thing plays out the next 24 hours. I'd say decisions coming sooner rather than later. He's commanding a range of well over the $1 million mark. And then you look at a guy like Deman Wilson, could go in the NFL draft, could go back to Missouri, opts to go in the portal. He will be by far probably the most skilled pass rusher in the portal next to a few other guys. That's really going to make a big market for him. I keep an eye on Texas Tech, Miami, Ohio State, typically, the big players when it comes to a battle like this for a pass rusher.
All right, Pete, that's a lot of intel. Thank you. There's more portal news to come. You guys go check out the front page of on3.com. That's where Pete Nakos posts all of his intel, and we appreciate you. All right, we are going to bring in Zach Abelverdi of Gators Online, talk a little Gator transfer portal. Zach, was Jaden Ball re-signing the biggest development so far for UF during this portal window?
I would say so, yes. And certainly on the positive front, this was a huge win for John Summerall and his staff, and that includes coaches, recruiting staffers, everybody that went all in to keep Jaden Ball in Gainesville. And obviously we know at this point that Texas was a threat because they hired his former position coach, Jabbar Jalouk, and they also had some other things to offer, including Arch Manning as their starting quarterback. Florida doesn't have a set starter for QB1. So there were some things that Ball was considering. Obviously, I think he wanted to see some pickups that the Gators had in the portal, and they got some big ones yesterday, and that led to his official pledge that he is returning for 2026.
All right. There's been a flurry of commitments. Hard for me to keep track of them all. Who so far do you think's been the most impactful?
Well, the Gators have gotten that number. Your graphic is already outdated, Josh. That number is
I know we can't keep it updated enough. It's crazy.
John Summerall keeps us busy. Yeah, they just landed a receiver from Wake Forest, Micah Mays.
Yeah.
Yeah, that gives them now 12 transfers. 4 of the 12 that they have landed are ranked in the top 200 of the On3 industry rankings. So some really quality additions that they've had. I think you obviously have to look at Aaron Philo, the quarterback from Georgia Tech. He was set to be the starter for the Yellow Jackets in 2026. Now he's on his way to Gainesville to compete with Tramel Jones for the job, but he certainly, you would think, is going to have an upper hand because he played in Buster Faulkner's offense. They also got DJ Coleman from Baylor, who's ranked 127th nationally in the On3 industry rankings. DB was a huge priority for the Gators in this portal cycle, so to be able to get him on board, he was the first commit that they landed. And look, Jaden Ball, we're talking about how big his decision was, but the Gators lost 4 scholarship running backs to the portal, so they couldn't just retain Ball. They needed to get some guys, and getting Evan Pryor as well this week, another top 200 transfer, was a big addition to their backfield to kind of give them a 1-2 punch now with him and Ball.
Yep, it's starting to come together. There's going to be some attrition when they change coaches, but now John Summerall in place, you're starting to see the influx of talent come in. Now, speaking of talent, we saw Eugene Wilson today commits to LSU. There's, it looks like that's gone. Is there any other players that are currently in the portal that could come back to UF?
Yeah, the only name that we're still monitoring at this point is Jaden Woods, and myself.
That's a big one.
Myself and Pete Nakos have been all over this. We've been reporting about Florida's, efforts to keep him from going to Texas and some of these other schools that are trying to get him to transfer. The biggest development happened last night. We first reported at Gators Online that John Summerall, Brad White, and Bam Hardman, former Gator linebacker Bam Hardman, made the trip out to Kansas to meet in person with Jaden Woods on Tuesday to try and keep him in Gainesville. And I think maybe alleviate some of the concerns or doubts that he has about the coaching transition and about what's best for his future. So they have been putting in a lot of work. They've been talking to him, his camp, his agent to get this done. And I'll be honest, Josh, the fact that Jaden Woods went and visited Texas this past weekend and didn't commit and then decided to sit down with John Summerall and is now considering a return to Florida, I think that this is a huge development for the Gators. Look, he's the number 12 overall player in the transfer portal ranking. So I guess it would work out for the Gators if they get him in the end because they get a huge bump in their class rankings.
Yeah. It would be huge. We'll see what happens, but that is a great sign and a major development at a position of need. Speaking of positions of need, right now at this point, what would you say is most important for the Gators still yet to fill?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that they've met a lot of the needs that they had coming into this cycle. They needed a quarterback, they needed a running back, which they're still trying to get others. They needed to get some offensive linemen and defensive linemen. They've gotten two at both of those positions, and they needed to get some DBs. They've only gotten one to this point, so I guess I would say that that's probably at this point, Josh, the one of the biggest needs that they have left is to get more defensive backs on board. And fortunately for the Gators, they have already zeroed in on another defensive back, Kentucky transfer Cam Dooley. He is taking an official visit to Florida on Wednesday. Both of our recruiting writers, Corey Bender and Blake Alderman, have submitted RPM picks for the Gators to land him. He played for Brad White and Chris Collins at Kentucky, so there's a connection there, and he would be able to step in right in and start at the safety position. So he's certainly a guy to watch for at this point, and I think that the defensive back spot is a position where they're still going to add maybe 1 to 2 more guys still.
Interesting. So UF and Kentucky swapping safeties here in the portal?
That's right. That's right. I do like, though, being able to get a guy for the Gators that has played in Brad White's defense, has played for the secondary coach. I think it's a perfect marriage.
Yeah. More commits coming. We saw one today, or Micah Mays just moments before the show started. Could there be more today?
Yeah, I think one name that we're certainly watching is Harrison Moore, the Georgia Tech offensive line transfer. He also took an official visit to Gainesville this week. Things are trending very positively for him to end up in Gainesville. Obviously, he's got 2 former teammates, Philo and Stockton, the wide receiver, that have committed to the Gators. He's got several staffers that have came over from Georgia Tech. So I think that's one that the Gators expect to get wrapped up.
All right. Well, it is going to be a busy day. Gators Online has all the info. I've been hitting refresh all morning long. Thanks for popping in on the Inside Scoop, Zach. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Josh.
All right. Let's go from the Florida Gators to the Alabama Crimson Tide. And we're going to bring in Tim Watts, Bama Online, insider, expert, whatever you want to call him. He is our guy. And Tim, there was big news in Bama land this morning. Ty Simpson going to the NFL. Don't think that's a big shocker to anybody, but how does this play into Alabama's portal strategy? Does it change anything? You're muted. Nothing on your end, not yet, but
all right, here we go.
Oh, there you go.
It really would have only changed things if he stayed at Tuscaloosa. That's when it would have got interesting. But I think most people thought Ty was going pro. They've got Austin Mack. They got Keelan Russell. Everybody knows him from last year. They signed 2 in this class. So you're going to have a new guy sitting on the throne in Tuscaloosa. It's going to be I think it's going to be a great quarterback battle. So not really surprising. Ty earned that. He played injured a lot of the year. Had a great first half, struggled down the second half some, but he also played some monster teams down the second half of that. So, yeah, it doesn't really change a lot with Ty Simpson. But Alabama did just get a commitment from Devin Tompkins, probably while you were live on the air. USC defensive lineman came in for a visit. So Alabama played on Friday, January 1st. And on January 2nd, the portal opened. And then the next day, they were lining up guys to come in on a visit. And so far, they did really well of landing those guys. Devin committed, had Georgia, Auburn, Ohio State, and Clemson especially, where he was supposed to visit today. But he just canceled that visit and has publicly committed per Hayes Fawcett to Alabama.
All right. So
a little live breaking news for you.
Yeah, me and Trey, the producer, were joking. We can't keep these graphics up to date because that's why we're live right now, is because we can't even tape these shows because the news is constantly changing. So of Alabama's portal commitments so far, who do you think is the most impactful?
I think you have to go with Hollywood Smothers, the running back from NC State, for about 10 reasons. First of all, he's a running back. Everybody loves running back. Second of all, Alabama was not able to run the ball successfully, consistently this year. So you're bringing in a guy that was one of the top 2 or 3 in the portal, maybe the top running back in the portal. So you get him on campus, and you also matching him up with Xavier Kroll, who some thinks is the #1 high school running back in the nation. So you want to upgrade that room. I think they did a great job there. But everybody they've got, I mean, Caden Strayhorn, I was looking at him. He started the last game versus Texas, a true freshman. had a ton of offers. I was not familiar with his game. He had a ton of offers, narrowed down to Ohio State and Michigan, but he's a guy they're pretty excited about. Caleb Woodson, a linebacker. So everything they're getting, including Devin Tompkins, is at need areas. And you see they've got 17 or 18 guys that have left the portal. So you're trying to fill those spots. You're trying to find more production. You're trying to up your talent level.
Are these starter level talents or are these depth pieces for the most part?
When it comes to the offensive line, I don't know. I mean, you got a redshirt freshman. He's certainly talented enough. I think he's going to be in the competition with Strayhorn. But, yeah, you're looking at Caleb Woodson. He's played, started the last 2 years for the most part. Hollywood Smothers is definitely coming in and going to be in that rotation. And then you got Devin Tompkins, who's going to have a lot of D linemen have went into the portal for Alabama. He's going to have a chance to come in right away. And also when these guys come in with 1 year to play, 1 year, they're coming because they're starting, they're expecting to play, they're expected to be in the rotation.
Yeah. So it's not, these are contributors who are going to be competing for starting.
No,
jobs.
These aren't all. Yeah. These are guys coming in to make some noise.
All right. So that being said, are there any guys that went in the portal that Bama could end up bringing back?
I think they're talking to them, but I think a lot of these talks are kind of with, you are what you are. I don't think you hit the portal on the spur of the moment. I think they've had talks with guys that were in the portal. So you never rule out never. They've already got one we expect back. Rico Scott announced he was in the portal. We are told that he's going to stick. We've seen that before. We saw Caden Proctor go in the portal for a few months and come back. So I don't think you rule anything out. But, I think they've turned the page and are looking forward. They've got a lot of big names they're trying to bring on campus. Names are popping up daily. But they're definitely looking to upgrade that whole roster. Off an 11-win team, too. So had some flaws they're trying to fill.
Yeah. And, hey, they cleared some space out. There's some spots available there. So who is Alabama making a priority right now? We know Cam Coleman's expected to make it on campus per Pete Nakos. That's a big name. Who else are they making a priority?
I know they really like. I tell you what I'm interested in was Jordan Ross from Tennessee, who hit the portal last night. He's a guy from Vestavia, 45 minutes to an hour away from Tuscaloosa. He hit the portal. We were kind of keeping an ear to the ground because in Alabama, Andrew Bone and I had heard that. We knew some of the people in that area that he might hit the portal. But he's a guy that we're taking a good look at. And really the biggest name is probably Jacarius Peak. Just an elite type offensive lineman. Everybody's going to be after this guy, but we have tentative plans for him to visit tomorrow. That's the plan right now. He snuck into Texas Tech. I don't mean snuck in, but he went in quiet stealth mode. But we do believe he's going to visit Alabama. So you mentioned Cam Coleman, who's a monster name. But if Cam Coleman ends up at Alabama, and I'm not saying he will or he won't, but that just kind of shows you the madness of the portal. But I think we already know it's a little bit insane.
It is insane. And the portal is important, but so is roster retention. So this roster better than anybody in the Alabama market. How do you think Bama did with retaining the guys that they needed to retain? Did they do it?
Well, we're halfway there. We're at halftime trying to predict the final outcome, but I think they did there hasn't been a lot of surprises in the portal, in my opinion. The reasons made sense. Quay Russaw probably caught somebody off guard because he had such high hopes, but, he's been injured a lot. He kind of fell behind Yanze Pierre, wants to go find a new role. And sometimes you just need a fresh start. We see that all the time where you just need to clear the badness out of everything. Well, he's been injured a lot. James Smith is one I think they would have liked to take. Like to have kept 5-star talent out of high school. Hasn't quite lived up to it, but you see his potential. But again, him and Quay are close. So I don't think there's any surprises. And like you said, there's a clearing out process. Everybody thinks the kids just go in the portal, but this is a two-way street. You're having discussions, kids will go in expecting a raise who didn't play this year,
Right.
So there's a lot of discussions, being had.
All right. Well, Alabama red hot in the transfer portal. Tim Watts from Bama Online. You guys go check it out. They have updates rolling all day long. Tim, thanks for dropping by this live show on the Inside Scoop.
Appreciate you guys.
All right. We go from let's talk to a winner. Let's bring on Gary Furman, Kane Sport. Gary, how do you know what to cover? You got the playoffs tomorrow. You got transfer portal going on right now. Has there been a crazier time covering Miami football than right now?
No, there really is not. It's just so much going on. We just had the head coach's press conference out here at the Fiesta Bowl, and just did a podcast on our canesport.com website. And I was crazy enough to try to do it outside because the temperature's dropping by the minute out here, Josh. It's probably about mid-50s now. I said, listen, I love Josh Newberg, but I'm taking this one inside, okay? So, we went out inside. I wanted to give you mountains and cactus.
Yeah, we'll get you back to the friendly confines of Coral Gables soon enough. Hopefully a winner. We'll get you back there a winner. But let's talk a little transfer portal because it is happening. We're a week into the portal. Miami taking a big swing at quarterback. What's the latest on Miami's pursuit of a quarterback in the portal?
If they're doing anything, it's very quietly, Josh. I mean,
yeah.
And they were quiet in their pursuit of Sorsby as well. I think that they explored it. They tried to see if they can get in there. I think it was a high priority for obvious reasons. He's the top guy. And if you can get a guy like that, you have to do it. But I think it very quickly came into focus that he was, as we had all been hearing, locked into Texas Tech. And it played out that way. I don't believe that Miami's after Levitt. I really don't. I really don't. I mean, I know what a lot of people are saying. I know that they're including Miami on the list.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen zero signs that Miami is after Levitt. You see the other visits he's taken, the other schools that are showing interest in him. Maybe that changes. I mean, he was a hot name linked to Miami early in the process here, but we have never been able to touch and feel it here in the Miami camp. And so I don't think that they feel like they have to get a quarterback. The quarterbacks are very expensive. The market's going 4, 5, 6, maybe even higher million. And if you can't get a great quarterback that's going to be a differentiator for you, then you're better off spending your money somewhere else, quite frankly. And so I'm not convinced Miami will get a transfer quarterback. They feel that they've recruited well at the position. Luke Nickel is a kid that's now completing his freshman year, that when they signed him, he was a very, very storied quarterback in Georgia high school circles, had great success at the high school level. He's a guy that I know they like a lot. Emory Williams has been in the program for what, I guess 3 years now.
3 years, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and they got Darian Coleman coming in as a true freshman who they like a lot. I mean, I don't think Darian Coleman's going to be a contender to start next year, but they like him quite a bit. So I don't think there's a panic in the Miami camp about getting a transfer quarterback. I think they'll keep their eyes open, see who goes in there. A guy that we are just keeping an eye on here at Kane Sport is Deman Williams out of Washington. Right. If LSU doesn't get Levitt, I know LSU's probably going to push there, but he makes a little sense to us because he's a really good dual threat quarterback who had a very high quality season this past year and brings some different things to the equation. So we're kind of like monitoring that one a little bit, Josh, but I don't think that there's a panic situation at Miami in terms of getting a quarterback in the portal. Okay.
Well, if you're not panicking, I'm not panicking. So when it does come to the portal and pieces Miami wants to add, are they going to bring him in this weekend? I mean, the game is Thursday night. Win or lose, when would they bring in some portal prospects?
They've got a few visits already lined up for this weekend. I think that they would like for this weekend to be a big visit weekend, but there's sort of like an internal mindset / pact right now inside Miami where we're not focusing on the transfer portal. And of course they have recruiting staffers probably in some far away little conference room out here in Phoenix, monitoring the portal, talking to agents, things like that. But they didn't want their players, and they had, certainly at least one guy do this last week. They don't want their players worrying about the portal in either direction. Going into the portal, which they'll have 5 days after the completion of the game, or guys from the portal being rumored to Miami, or guys sitting there looking over their shoulders, or the coaches trying to replace me. They're getting ready to play the national semifinal tomorrow night. Okay, they want their entire roster locked in for this football game. So you can't have a circus atmosphere going on in the program.
Right.
If you want the right mindset to go out and win this game tomorrow night. So they've kind of put the portal off to the side. Obviously, that there are some guys that we're on top of that we think could end up at Miami. Vantrevious Jacobs from South Carolina, a speed receiver, is certainly one. There's a couple DBs. Kid by the name of Omar Thornton from Boston College. He visited last weekend, quick visit. No commitments or anything announced, really nothing out of Omar Thornton's mouth about the visit. We think that's by design. They snuck him out of the hotel on Sunday morning, and he's been missing in action. So we wouldn't be shocked if there's an announcement of a Miami commit there. There's a safety out of Minnesota, Coy Parrish, who has a former relationship with the defensive coordinator, Corey Heatherman. Ton of buzz there. We wouldn't be shocked if he ended up visiting this weekend. And there's a couple other guys that have Miami visits on deck. Pitt defensive tackle Francis Brew, I think that's how you pronounce it. He's going to visit Miami on the 15th and 16th. Tennessee defensive end Caleb Herring, he's going to visit Miami at some point here after this Fiesta Bowl game. Mm-hmm. So you're seeing the point, without going through the whole thing, Josh, and boring everybody, is you're seeing a sprinkling of a little bit of activity in the portal, but they're really trying to keep it from being any level of focus out here at the Fiesta Bowl.
Are the players, and this is the last thing I'm going to ask you, it seems like the players also kind of have a pact. I know there's a couple Miami Hurricanes in the portal, a defensive lineman that took a visit to Texas, but for the most part, it seems like guys that might be entering the portal are at least waiting until the playoff run's over. Do you get that sense that the players too have come together and kind of decided, hey, let's make the focus on the field?
100%. 100%. And the one or two deviants from that, I mean, are not really guys that would have been involved in this game this week.
Right.
This team is really focused on winning this game tomorrow night. And so I think a great job from Mario Cristobal and his staff in approaching it the way that they have. I think great job by the kids, because there will be some Miami players who are backups and stuff that might see a better opportunity for themselves in the transfer portal. But they have collectively come together, and they are doing a phenomenal job of managing a really difficult situation.
Yeah.
Because, Josh, you got, other teams, that the FSU and all these other teams out there are calling agents for Miami players and saying, we want you to come to our program. I mean,
100%.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're doing a great job of keeping it from being a distraction out here in Phoenix.
Yeah. It's just unfortunate that the calendar is the way that the calendar is, because the playoffs are going on right now. Miami's focused on trying to finish out the season, yet this is the only portal window to make some final touches to your 2026 roster. So while the playoffs are everything, well, so is these final days of the portal. So it's kind of crazy. It's unfortunate, but I'm sure Miami would rather be in this position than not. So go cover your playoff games, have a blast. We're going to continue talking Miami transfer portal all off season long. Thank you, Barry.
The one thing I'll add for you is, if a kid is out there and he really wants to go to Miami, and he's thinking Miami is one of his premier destinations, he'll wait a couple days.
Right.
He'll
understand.
The mindset, keeping the focus on the game tomorrow night is way more important for this program.
Yeah. And you want players that understand that you're focused on that.
100%.
If the guy doesn't understand why you're not picking up the phone during a playoff walkthrough practice, then he's probably not a good fit for your team.
100%.
All right. Gary Furman, Kane Sport, you guys do a great job. We'll check it out. Thanks for dropping by the Inside Scoop.
Thanks, Josh. Always great being with you.
All right, there it is. Miami Hurricane fans, talk to me. How you guys feeling about the big game tomorrow night? What is your final score prediction? And also, all this quarterback talk for the Miami Hurricanes. Who do you want at quarterback for next year? I know it sounds crazy. We're talking about it with Carson Beck at the helm, but he's going to be gone. So who's the next quarterback at Miami? Is he on the roster or is he in the portal? Talk to us, comment section below. All right. We're going to move along and talk Auburn.
I can't hear.
We got Jeffrey Lee from Auburn Sports.
I can't hear.
We had Jeffrey Lee from Auburn Sports. We'll get him back on there in a second. There we go. We got the portal rankings. Byron Brown is finally in the mix for Auburn. USF quarterback had a great run with Alex Golish for the Bulls, and now he is taking his talents to the Plains. Let's bring in Jeff Lee. Let's try this again. Jeff's on the road. Do we have Jeff?
Can you hear me, Josh?
I got you, Jeff. Okay.
All right.
I know you're on the road out there. I don't think you're seeing recruits, but you are on the road while Auburn is busy in the portal. So far, we're showing some of the additions. Who do you think, besides Byron Brown? Obviously, he's the most impactful at quarterback, but who else on the incoming list is going to make a major impact at Auburn?
I think, Josh, listen, I might even argue that this guy is 1B, but we saw the signing of Stanton Ramil this morning from transfer left tackle from Michigan State.
Right.
Huge addition for Auburn. They lost Xavier Chaplin to the transfer portal, which wasn't a huge loss. I mean, I think they could upgrade there even if he had stayed. But getting Ramil, who's from Thompson High School, signed with Michigan State, considered Auburn heavily out of high school, but getting him signed, done, Clemson was pushing for him. Other schools were pushing for him. Yeah. So I think to get your LT1 along with your QB1 already signed in the books, I think that is absolutely monstrous for Auburn.
Yeah, it's been a busy portal season for Auburn. Some of these guys coming over from USF, which of the USF bunch is going to make an instant impact at Auburn?
I think the wide receivers, the tight end, Jonathan Nakos. I like that Golish and his staff is bringing a big core of their offense. If for nothing else, to set the tone early about culture, what this guy expects, and every guy that you're bringing in from that USF offense is another teacher for the guys who haven't been in that system before, for the guys who are returning at Auburn. Those are all new and additional teachers on this system, and I think that is a big deal to bring some guys. I mean, you saw what Signetti did at Indiana. He brought a bunch of JMU guys,
It worked.
And it worked, and I think Auburn fans at first were like, oh, University of North Florida is what we are. And I'm going, man, look at the track record. Hugh Freeze didn't bring anybody over. Brian Harston didn't bring anybody over. And so this is a method that has worked for teams that have been successful, including Indiana. So I think it's important for him to bring those guys from the offensive side of the ball, the wide receivers, the tight ends. The running back, Nakai Davenport, is also. So you've got a lot of skill players coming over, keeping an eye on Cole Skinner, the interior offensive line from USF. So I think it's a big deal to get these culture guys in who are very talented. I mean, you're talking about guys who had a lot of success last year against SEC teams.
Right.
So I really like what this staff is doing, building this core transfer portal class, and then going out and getting some additions to really kind of finalize it.
Yeah, and you make a great point because it benefits the program to be able to hit the ground running. I feel like Hugh Freeze had such a short window. Even though he was recruiting really well, it fell off because he never had that proof of concept at Auburn. Right. He had it other places, but maybe bringing in a Byron Brown and these other USF players, it can work for a year. Of course, then you're going to have to backfill that with other talented players because they're going to run out of eligibility. But if you can get that proof of concept from year one out of Alex Golish, it could kind of bridge the gap that Hugh Freeze was unable to do. So that being said, it feels like they got some work to do on the defensive line. Do you feel like D-line is still the biggest need, or is it O-line?
With the addition of Ramil, I still think both of those lines of scrimmages are absolutely huge for Auburn in this portal cycle. I think you've got to add, maybe a handful of guys on the defensive line. I think you've got to add probably 3 to 4 more at least on the offensive side of the football. Talked about Cole Skinner, the interior guy. We've seen Devin Voss from Kansas State visit. Tigra from Ohio State is on campus now. So there's some Joseph Simmons from James Madison has visited. Big looking, good looking dude. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they've had several guys come in. Cody Sigler from Arkansas State, so he's been a top target. So there's been an emphasis on these first few days in the portal of getting the big guys in.
Mm-hmm. Who's coming in over the next couple of days? Anybody important?
Well, moving on the outside, I think Auburn is, as much as they've done at the wide receiver position, dude, you're talking about maybe taking 7 wide receivers out of the transfer portal. You know about the 5 from the USF. I think Noah Rogers is a guy to keep an eye on. I think he originally signed with Ohio State. On3 had him as a 5-star. He's at NC State now. He's coming in for a visit today. Another big-time name to keep an eye on is Ricky Gibson, the cornerback from Tennessee. He's expected to visit today as well. Hewitt Trustful guy. And then they're not done at quarterback, believe it or not. You know, they've signed Lachlan Hewlett from USF. They signed Byron Brown from USF. They signed Reese Brush from USF. He was committed to USF. But they're going to bring in some other guys. Trishan Tia is coming in for a visit, Oregon State guy, and I think there's another guy they've kind of got lined up. So they could take at least another quarterback in this transfer portal cycle, as well as a running back. Ja'Kai Johnson from Florida was in yesterday. He left yesterday. So they're bringing in some other guys at running back. So a lot. I mean, you're talking, Josh, 26 to 30 guys from the transfer portal in this cycle.
Wow. So is the entire staff in place at Auburn right now, or is Golish still working on that as well?
No, everybody's in. They're all been at the complex, the football facility, every day, all day. If one thing about this staff, and I've heard it from numerous different people who's been around them, but nobody's going to outwork these guys. And that was maybe a problem for not Hugh Freeze's staff, but Hugh Freeze himself. You didn't see Hugh Freeze in there working week in and week out, day in and day out. But I've seen Alex Golish more times up and down those stairs in the football facility, greeting recruits, sending them off in the past 3 days than I saw Hugh Freeze in 3 years.
Really? Wow. So they're getting to it now. Are they at the same time? Are they also high school recruiting as well? Because I see, this is prime time where you're laying down those relationships and the foundation with 2027s, but really it's also 2028 recruiting time now. Sure. Because it takes 2 years to recruit some of these top players.
Absolutely. Now, I think, and I said this on my show last night, these guys, when it comes to NIL, when it comes to rev sharing, I don't know that Auburn is going to, quote unquote, win signing day when it comes to high school guys, at least not in the immediate future. I think maybe long term that is, but we saw Hugh Freeze, try to build his roster from high school, which he signed some talented guys, but could never get them all on the same page, could never get them clicking. I think for the first couple of years, Golish and staff are going to concentrate on getting some experience, getting some men. If you look at the playoff teams, the experience they have in the top level of classes, juniors and seniors, and even Auburn's biggest teams of success in the past have all been, elders, if you will. So I think they want to get some in. You talked about that proof of concept, Josh. You want guys to come in and be able to plug them in, get that proof of concept so that you can go to the high school ranks and show them what you've got and start building that way as well.
Yeah. What are some of the characteristics you've learned about Alex Golish as a recruiter?
Man, and this is coming from Steve Wiltfong and Chad Simmons, guys that knew him back at Tennessee and at USF, and just reiterated what I said earlier. Nobody's going to outwork this guy when it comes to doing anything. He is detailed. He is absolutely. I mean, every minute of his day is planned out. People didn't maybe pick up on this, but even on his opening ceremony, on his opening press conference, his introductory press conference at Auburn, he looks at his watch at the very end, and he's like, okay, I've got, and he looks to the side and he says, I got 3 minutes because then I have to do this, and this. Very detail oriented, very personable too, man. hardworking. I really like what I've seen from him, and it comes down to his staff as well. You can tell there's a good vibe in that building right now.
All right. Well, you got me fired up about Auburn. It's going to be a fun offseason. Auburn fans, make sure you guys are subscribed because we are going to be talking Auburn Tiger recruiting all offseason long. Jeffrey Lee from Auburn Sports, you guys are doing a phenomenal job. Keep it up. I'm checking the site all day. Thanks for dropping by today on the Inside Scoop.
Absolutely, Josh. Doing a great job, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right. We go from Auburn to Texas. Let's bring in Justin Wells inside Texas. You guys are also busy. Go figure. Texas is hot in the portal. We talked Cam Coleman a couple days ago. What's the latest with Cam Coleman since the last we talked?
So the name Alabama popped up, and that's the state where he's from, and of course nothing would burn worse to Auburn fans than him playing for Alabama. And so Alabama became a factor. We'd actually had a source tell us yesterday that Alabama was going to make a pretty strong pitch.
Wow.
And I think part of that was with Ty Simpson. So with Simpson declaring today, I wonder how much that affects Cam Coleman, because he has stated, hey, the quarterback is going to be a factor. The money's going to be there. The opportunities are going to be there, but the quarterback to him is going to be a big factor. And so it's going to be crazy to see how this thing every day, Josh, we see a different twist and a different turn with this. And honestly, I think that's his agent doing his job. He's trying to get the best deal possible, get him in the best fit possible. That's what Cam pays him for. And so Alabama jumped into the mix yesterday. I wonder how that visit's going to go. He's supposed to be, I believe at Texas Tech today, but that's changed 3 or 4 different times, I feel like, in the last week. Hey, stay tuned, because this is the most fluid part of the portal recruiting.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And Texas took a big swing. They were the first visit. Sometimes, in portal recruiting, maybe we see a shift this year, but in past years, it was always like, hey, that first visit might be it. He might be ready to shut it down, but we're seeing some guys take a couple more visits before deciding. So maybe that's the same with Cam.
And I also think that's the agents. Like if Cam Coleman were to go to Austin and sign and enroll immediately, they didn't do their job, because you're not getting the best offers. You're not getting the other opportunities. I don't think this is as much a play for the players as it is for the agents and the parents and the people running the circle.
Yeah, that makes sense. Who else right now are you tracking that's going to be on campus in the next couple of days?
Today, Texas is hosting 2 defensive tackles. Miami freshman defensive tackle Dante Smith, Simpson. He's already on campus. That's a guy they look as potentially a project that could play across that 4-man front now that Muschamp's there. Zion Williams, big Lufkin, Texas former kid. 6'4.5", about 355, perfect nose tackle.
Was he committed to Texas, or were they pushing for a late flip? I remember it. What was that? What was during his recruitment?
Okay, so he loved Texas from the start, and it was because of Bo Davis.
Right.
So he was going to go to Texas in part because of Bo Davis. Well, Bo, right before his senior year, took the job at LSU. So naturally, he decided to commit to LSU. He never flipped anywhere. He committed to LSU and stayed committed to LSU. Then he gets on campus in Baton Rouge. 2 weeks later, Bo Davis does what he does best. He leaves. And so he's sitting there and he's kind of stuck. He gets a new D-line coach. 12, fast forward 8, 9, 10 months, that staff gets fired. So he's looking at his 3rd defensive line coach in 12 months in Baton Rouge. So I just think he was looking for that fresh start.
All right. Who else are you tracking right now?
Yeah, Zion and Dante, those are the big ones today that are going to be on campus. We'd heard Wisconsin offensive lineman Joe Bruner could potentially be there today or tomorrow. Texas fans, that's the guys that they want to hear about. They want, Texas is loading up back on defense, but they want to hear some of these offensive guys start to come off the board. That's one that we're tracking. Raleek Brown, that's another one, the running back out of Arizona State, former USC commit / OU commit, modern day 5-star. Texas went to go see him recently. He's supposed to be on campus today. We feel really good about where Texas and Raleek stand with that one. Man, there's a lot. I'm trying to go through them all in my head, which ones are coming, but those are the ones we're paying the most attention to today.
How should Texas fans feel about Parker Livingston continuing his playing career at Oklahoma?
This sport is it's changing, and I think that's obvious. I think everybody understands that. For some for the better, and then some for the worse. Parker Livingston was the embodiment of a Texas Longhorn. That's where he wanted to be his whole life. That's
right.
He would trash OU after Texas would repeatedly beat him. Like that was his thing. But he didn't want a reduced role. He wanted the opportunity to pick up where he left off last year, where he was a starter and he had kind of a breakout year as a redshirt freshman. He wanted to build on that. And I don't know if Texas had the same vision. And so he decides to go to Oklahoma. Now, look, I honestly thought Indiana was going to be his best spot, but to go to the bitter rival, it feels like a little bit of spite. It feels like a little bit of brokenhearted. It feels like maybe the decision was a little emotional, maybe a little irrational. But listen, you can't fault him in this regard. They're trying to find the best spots that they can.
I know.
Understandably, old school would tell you get in there, work hard, just earn your spot. That's not kind of the way now. They want maybe a clearer path, and so I hate it. I'm a big Parker Livingston guy. I've known that kid for a long time. But going to Oklahoma is, oh, buddy, October was already fun. Now it's going to be extra lit when that guy comes out of the tunnel.
And I think it was because he was so productive, because he was such a fan favorite, because he kind of embodied what Texas wanted out of all of their players at every position. Somebody that was productive, worked hard, and was great on and off the field. Now he's going to be lining up it might not, like you said, it might not all be his fault or his doing. Most of it might not be his doing at all. But just the fact that he's at Oklahoma is just such a weird just sign of the times right now with
sticker shock.
Football is.
That's what it is. It's sticker shock. It's what are we doing here? And fans, I got to tell you, college football has never been more popular, but I can't remember fans being more angst and more nervous and more, it's hard to have a loyalty. It's hard to establish loyalty whenever kids are coming in every year and you're changing over the roster every year. It just comes to such more of a professional format. But for a kid to go from one south of the Red River to north of the Red River, I mean, that's a bold move, my man. And I wish Parker nothing but the best. And one other note, we broke earlier today that Elijah Bo Barnes is expected to go into the portal. That was one of the other 2 scholarship linebackers on the roster.
That's a surprise.
Okay. I mean, that's you're looking at a position. The linebacker looked pretty good going into 2026. Now it's terrifying. And so that one came out kind of out a little of the blue. We had kind of heard about that last night, and so that's one to watch as well. This portal stuff is not for amateurs. It is very fluid. And listen, you take Parker away not just from Texas. That was Arch Manning's roommate. That was one of the guys
right.
he hung out with and bonded with. And Parker's brothers are so much fun and really good guys to get to know. It's just. This is college football is very popular right now. This is just the bad side of it.
Do you mean Bo Barnes could end up at Oklahoma too? Or you just?
Oh God, no. I don't know that. I don't know that. Listen, I don't know that. That's purely speculative. Let's let him populate in the portal first, and then we'll find.
Okay,
out.
when you said this is crazy, I just didn't. I was like, wait, is he saying that he could end up at the rival? Okay, I get it. All right,
no,
we'll
but I will say this. I do think some parents get a little hurt during this renegotiation process year after year. I think some of these get emotional. And so when you see a Livingston go to Oklahoma, you start to think, Elijah Barnes was one of the best freshmen on the team last year. He was one of the best in practice. He had a sack in the Citrus Bowl. Like, that's a kid you build around. You brought him in, you developed him, and you build around him. Mm-hmm. But now it's going to hurt to see wherever he goes, especially if it's somewhere closer in state. Texas A&M was in the mix before. I think Oklahoma and Michigan were in the mix before. It's just an unfortunate thing that happens. But you know what? You reload, you restock, and you go back to the drawing board and you fill in the blanks.
Yeah. Hey, sometimes the free market can be offensive. I mean, sometimes when you learn your value
Oh, good call.
on the free market, hey, if you're a great player, yeah, the free market's great. But if you're not, if you were one of these top names coming out of high school and you were over recruited and you made a lot of money as a recruit, but you haven't proved it on the field, well, the free market is going to determine your value. And sometimes guys get offended by that, but it is what it is. All right. So what does Texas need to accomplish before the portal closes?
Fill in the offensive line first and foremost. They got to get a center. We believe Connor Robertson could be coming back. He actually did walk. That's last year's starting center. He actually did walk on senior day, but we had heard that he could potentially be coming back. They do need another center, though. They lost Daniel Cruz to the portal yesterday. Left guard and right guard. And you need probably three. You need two. You need one for each spot and then a backup. They need that interior O-line as much as anything. Go the other side of the ball. It's time to fill in linebacker. You got to stock the cupboard again. You're losing Anthony Hill Jr., Leona LaFau, Elijah Bo Barnes, Trey Moore, who had played some linebacker. I mean, that room, everyone's going to be newcomers to each other. Tyler Atkinson better be ready. And I know Atkin Up is going to be ready when he gets on campus in about 72 hours. He's going to be ready. But that offensive line has got to get shored up, especially the middle interior offensive line has got to get shored up. Those are things we're still tracking, like an Andrew Sprague from Michigan, the Joe Bruner from Wisconsin. The running back situation needs to be fixed, but we think Rayleigh Brown is going to be one that really kind of trends in that direction. Fix linebacker, get you another safety, maybe get you another a swing offensive tackle. There's plenty for Texas to do over the next 9 days.
They're also working the high school level right now. I mean, they have Easton Royal on board. He's the number one wide receiver in the country.
Yeah.
How are they handling high school recruiting? This is valuable time for not only 2027, but 2028 as well. How are they balancing what they're doing in the portal with high school recruiting?
Well, the junior day is set for January 17th, the day after the portal closes. So in a sense, I think you're going to see them shift more that day before. Now, obviously, you've got analysts and you've got player personnel guys lining up your guys. But right now, the focus is on the portal. When Will Muschamp and Steve Sarkisian and Jabbar Jaloot go on the road, they're going to see portal guys. They're not so much focused on this 2027 class. And if you paid attention last cycle or at the end of last season, Texas didn't really pay a lot of attention to the class of 2027. Easton Royal was a guy that just sort of happened because he had a great relationship. Yeah. He'd come to Austin a few times, absolutely loved it. I mean, you watch Arch Manning dropping dimes and then you see yourself there. And so Texas has a decent start there in 2027. And Royal was just fantastic at Under Armour. I mean, that kid did some great things. But I think right now, Sark and these guys, they're focused on retention in the portal. They're bringing guys in and seeing if they're going to be fit to fit around those guys. I don't see this staff really going into the class of 2027 until that junior day weekend. Easton Royal is going to be on campus. He'll be back. Ishmael Kamara out of Gilmer, Texas, number 3 interior offensive lineman, even though he's an offensive tackle. He's going to be on campus. There's going to be a handful of other guys as well. And so I think they'll shift more. But right now, that focus on the 40 acres is portal retention and bringing guys in.
All right. And you guys are doing a heck of a job at Inside Texas covering it all. A lot of action going on, not just through the week, but this weekend will be busy as well. Justin Wells, Inside Texas, thanks for dropping by the Inside Scoop. We'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate you guys.
All right. There it is. Now, we're going to bring in Ole Miss. We were going to bring in Texas A&M. Those publishers are busy right now. I promise we'll cut some videos on A&M and USC as well. We'll get some Ole Miss going. Who else do you guys want us to talk about? I'm here all day tomorrow. If you guys want me to talk and cut a video on your program, put it in the comments section below. And also, if you're still here, hit subscribe because we're going live all the time. You never know when we are going to go live. But if you are a member, if you're a subscriber, you get notified as soon as we go live on this channel. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know who you want us to cover next.